a long day on your feet. So that being said, first thing I want you to do is go ahead and tuck your toes. You can see I'm doing that right here. And spread them nice and wide, and you're gonna go ahead, bring your knees together and bring your sits bones, right, the two bony protrusions on either tush onto your heels, the calcaneus bone. And then I want you to take your fingers, and you can see what I'm doing here, and spread your toes far apart. Get in there, really, you know, if you need to lean forward and kind of spread your big toes out and then do like one at a time. I've had a lot of requests for what to do after a run. How do you kind of recover your body and and prepare it to do the same thing or different things the next day, maybe take on a little bit more. So now that your butt is sitting, your toes are spreading, I want you to press your toes away from you into the mat. So if you're doing it with your hands, it would be like you're trying to drag the mat backwards in space, and you're really gonna feel, oh, I spread one a little too far. You do want the pads of the toes on the bottom of the feet. And now you're probably gonna start to feel some opening through the arch of the foot, right? And so since basically the hands are feet, but on our arms, right? So you're gonna feel some spreading through the arches, so really push, right? So what this is doing is opening up the fascia a bit, right? It takes time. The fascia on your feet have so many layers. It's this tissue that doesn't have a lot of blood flow. It's not very elastic, but it does help support the rest of the body. It keeps the feet wrapped, all those bones on the bottom, right? There's so many different bones in the feet, so that way when you're walking and you're if you're walking barefoot, right, it's not straight up to the bone or your nerves and tendons, right? So it's almost like the fascia protects you. It's a protective layer, kind of like the skin being the largest organ of respiration in the body. Sorry, science nerd, can't help myself. Okay. Right, so you're probably like, oh my goodness, helps to play your favorite song, sing along really loud, because we do need to be here. The fascia in the feet, and if you've ever had plantar fasciitis or shin splints, on the front of the shin, everything connects to the feet. Achilles tendonitis, all of that good stuff. So you really want to sit here, as annoying as this is, for at least, 5 minutes, right? We've been here for about 3. We've got a lot of stuff to do, so I'm going to move on. All right, from here, you're going to come forward, untuck your toes, give them a little pitter-patter on top of the mat or whatever surface you're on, grass, sand. And now, you're going to go ahead and you're gonna come back. I'm gonna move this mat a little bit because I see my angle is different. Isn't this really cool? I'm in this little pergola that my brother built. It's pretty fantastic. Okay, so now you are coming and your feet are flat, pointed, so they're plantar flex at the ankle, and they're underneath you. Again, the sits bones are underneath or attached to the heels, and you might want a block or a bench or something in front of you. We're going to start relatively easily. You're going to press your fingers into the floor, keep your heels connected towards your butt, and now we're going to open up through the front space of the shins, okay? And then if you've been doing this for a long time, you might be able to come in and make circles and all of that stuff. And if you can't bring your knees up as high as I can, my back is nice and long, right? So now we're getting into the plantar side of the foot. And here, this one kind of requires a little bit of backing in and out of. So you can see from the side, I'll turn and do it this way. Give myself a little bit of support, right? So you can see I'm staying connected. And then if I turn around and I want to come up nice and high, right, I'm already covered in sweat, right? but I can, let's bring this to the side of me because I will never be able to do this properly, right? So you see now I can have support to help me. My spine is nice and long. And you'll feel a lot of opening through the top of the foot and then the front of the ankle. And that one we do not do as long because heaven knows that is pretty difficult to do. Okay, next, moving right along into that Achilles, right? So we'll start just by coming into a 3-point plank. So one knee down and one foot extended. I have my right foot extended behind me. And you're just gonna start by slowly rocking forward and back, only using the ball of the right foot to do the work. So try and keep the weight out of your hands, right? Lift up through the arch, really make that press happen all the way back. Push that heel as far back as you can, and then use the ball toe mound to create space and move it forward. And now you're gonna come back into this I would call this like a shortened dog. So your left knee, everything is gonna stay where it was feet wise, right? And you're just gonna bring your chest to your left thigh, push your hands down in, and now I want you to try and reach your heel on the right foot to the ground. And then after about 5 or 10 seconds, you'll keep reaching your heel towards the ground on the right foot, but now you'll bend that right knee a little and you'll feel the stretch shift from the calf muscles down towards the Achilles tendon. And if you're really sweaty and you're slipping, you can reach around for the side of your mat and you'll move and grip onto there, and you'll move back and forth between that slight knee bend on the right side into straightening the leg. You know, and if you have Achilles issues, maybe you spend more time, but you definitely want to keep it a little bit dynamic. And then you're going to bring your right knee back down to the mat. And you thought that we were going to go right into the other side, but we're not going to. So, keeping your hips square, lift your right leg off of the ground, press into your shoulder, broaden through the collarbones, on the shoulder blades, abs are engaged, right? Think as if you could scissor your two inner hip points together, lifting up through the pelvic floor. That sensation of jumping into a cold pool. Bend your knee, bring your heel towards your butt. Open your knee out towards the side, bring that knee forward, down and around. Now you can see that I didn't open, go kind of like that to create that hip circle. We're doing this with control, right? Nice and slow, starting to move up into that hip joint with these hip cars. And now we're gonna reverse it. So bringing the knee as far forward as we can, opening up that leg into the fire hydrant, internally rotating as we bring that knee back around and down. Taking that twice more on the right side. Don't worry, we're getting into those hips after, yeah? Keeping that heel as close to the butt as possible. Take it into kind of a chest elevated child's pose. So hips to heels on untucked toes, right? Maybe, now we're feeling, the awareness of the hip flexors. And then pull back forward onto hands and knees. Make sure that your knees are separated so that way they're underneath your hips. That's a 2 fist width measure if you'd like to check. And then extend your left leg long behind you. Okay, I'll kind of spin myself so you can see a little bit better. Good. And again, we're just going to start rolling onto the ball of the foot, pushing that heel back as far as we can. And you can, move like a 1-1 if something feels a little bit better, slowing it down. Just make sure that you're not favoring one side. So you're not like pushing more with the big toe ball mound or the pinky ball toe mound, right? We want to create even space for that ankle, right? So if you squat and you like spin your toes out because it's more comfortable because you don't have the ankle mobility to get there, well, this is going to help lengthen it in a non, maybe some of that half kneeling stuff that we've done before. This is just a little bit different, focusing more on that post-run mobility that I generally tend to do. Okay, so now you tuck the toes on your right foot. You come back into that shortened dog, right? If we were doing this in yoga, we would do a twisted down dog, right? Anyway, that's neither here nor there. So now you're pressing the heel on there's an ant on my foot. You're pressing the heel of your left leg away from you. And again, I'm very sweaty, so I'm going to come in here. And then there's a slight bend to your knee, moving that stretch down the Achilles as you're still pushing the heel towards the ground, right? So this stretch is definitely for the posterior calf, shin, whatever you want, lower leg, right? That's it. Good. I'm straightening, and maybe you quiver a little. Good, and then you'll bring both knees down again. Extend, lift the left foot off the floor, extend the leg long behind you, engage the glutes, bring the rib cage in, right? So it's not sinking in like that, not rounding like that. You want to be nice and long, shoulders down away from the ears. I'm trying to find a spot that's even for my knee. You can see there's like little that space between the tiles is normally filled with grout. I don't know what you call it outside. Okay. So then bring your left heel towards the butt. Good. Externally rotate the knee so it's pointing out towards the side. Bring it forward as far as you can, down and around. Engaging through the abdominals, keeping even pressure through both hands. Maybe you're noticing that your range of motion on one side is different than the other. Maybe there's different sensations from one side to the other. And I'm going to just kind of turn because my hands are on uneven surfaces, so that's going to offset me. And now I'm going to reverse the direction. I'm going to bring my knee forward. I'm going to open it like a fire hydrant. Internally rotate so that way your heel is pointing straight up towards the ceiling. Bring that knee down and around. Twice more, right? Fire hydrant. That feels really nice. And now maybe you start to feel the outside of the hip waking up a little bit, right? I'm assuming that you're all like nodding and saying yes. Knee is gonna come down, little chest elevated, child's pose, getting into those hip flexors, right? And starting to feel that outside of the hip because we're gonna take care of those hips next. And then we will also get into a little bit of thoracic rotation, shoulder stretch, because this arm carry and strength and fatigue is super, super important, so often neglected for runners. Okay. Come into a tall kneeling position. You'll bring your right foot forward so that way the ankle is directly underneath the knee. You're making an L for Lee, L for love with that shape. So a 90-90 shape. And then this is, we're working, I'll turn a little bit. Okay. So and get the top of my foot there. So if you have, are pretty tight through the hip, you can be a little open through the hips, but I don't want any crossbody or tightrope, right? We want your back knee directly underneath the back hip. And you're going to squeeze your left butt cheek. And we've done the ankle, so we're not worrying about really what's like the stretch that's happening in the back of the calf. And then you're gonna reach up and over. Notice I'm not dumping into my right side. I'm staying nice and tall because this is creating space through the iliopsoas muscles, okay? And then you're squeezing the butt so that way you don't dump into the back, and you're also not letting this come too far, going up and over. We're just gonna move in and out of that. Now, as your right knee comes forward, I want you to make sure that it's not collapsing inward, right? So that is a little bit of activation through those adductors. This should feel really good. Keep squeezing your left butt cheek as you come forward, right? Feel like your left knee is dragging back on the mat to create space. So through that boundary, whole left side is elongating into those obliques that have worked so much with all the breathing that you're doing as you run, right? The abdominals, if you are carrying yourself correctly, should actually fatigue from running, right? Because your rectus abdominis, the six-pack muscles, right, that everyone wants, they connect at the same point to lift your leg and flex the hip as your hip flexors do. Isn't that crazy? So would you rather use a teeny tiny muscle to lift these big heavy legs, or would you rather use long muscles, right, that connect from like here to here? And imagine that there was like a figure chart. And by the way, we're going to switch sides now, get reset up. But right, we always want to try and use our major muscle groups to do the things that we so tend to have our accessory muscles do, right? So like with our hamstrings taking over for our glutes when running up a hill, right? No bueno, right? You give a little activation, you get a little squeeze sometimes, and then it sometimes gets that muscle memory going. Okay, so you know that L shape, we're back here, and then we're gonna go ahead and bring that right arm up and over as we reach. And then we just back up out of it. And we're doing this 10 times. I don't know if you counted. And maybe I am on something that's really hard right now. So I'm going to make sure that I don't bust my kneecap, because it feels like it's going to a little. Not like because I'm injured, but because I was just at a weird angle. Up and over, right? We're not rotating yet. Good. 3 more times. That feels so nice. Last one. Okay. Go ahead and unfold your mat if you did the same thing that I just did. If you have a little seat, grab a chair. If not, you can very well do this on the floor. But I found this adorable little children's bench here. So to get into the outer edge of the hip, or the outside of the hip, we're going to go ahead and use it. So let's start by crossing our left ankle over our right knee for a figure 4 shape. Okay, and now maybe you feel a little bit of sensation already from here, and you can also do this with your butt on the ground. It's pretty much the same thing, so I will show you both. The elevation kind of allows you to get a little bit more into the hip space because you can drop your butt lower. So keep that left foot dorsally flexed, right? Always that you could push the sole of your foot. And now if you're elevated, lift your seat off the bench, and you need to keep pressing your left knee away from you and down. And now I'm just gonna let my butt sink nice and low. I'm driving my left knee away from me, using that ankle support. I'm holding here. You can kind of rock from side to side if you want, but you need to keep that flexion in the ankle. You can ease a little bit out of it and then sink your way back in. And you should feel the outside of your left hip. Now you can see I'm down on the floor. So what does that look like, right? I'm up here, right? You're not letting this come here. I want you to keep fighting. You can even swipe away on that angle, okay? And then you're gonna bring your foot down to the floor, and we're gonna go ahead and switch sides. So this is the last thing we're gonna do. We're gonna transition into the shoulders again. So right ankle is crossing. Oh, you want your whole foot, by the way, on the opposite side of your thigh. So you want on the lateral side of your left thigh, your right foot, right? So it's the ankle on top of the knee. And then again, feel like already you could press this down, right? And that gets into that outside of the right hip. I like to bring my again, ankle underneath my knee. I'm gonna press into my hands. Actually, I need to shift myself forward. And then I'm swiping that right knee away. I'm pressing. And then I'm trying also to keep my left butt cheek in line with my left heel, right? So that way I'm not off-centered, right? We're putting the stretch where we need it to go. We're not compensating. And also too, I like this little elevation because it starts to open up a little bit through the front of the shoulders as you wing your elbows out towards the sides, right? And again, you can see here I am. Maybe I lean back and maybe I swipe. And you know, you want to be able, the further your chest is away from your thighs, the less intense this will feel. But you want to try and be able to bring your chest towards your thighs. Okay, and we're going to come out of that on the right side. I'm going to move the bench off, actually away, because we are completely done with it. Coming back to you now. So you've moved that away, and we're just going to transition. So you're going to come into a plank position, soft bend to your knees, come into that deep crouch. So if I turn to the side, it's like that wide down dog, right? And then pull forward into a plank position, shoulders stacking over wrists, right? And then you're gonna go back into those hips. So your feet and your hands are not moving. Your knees are going a little bit wide, coming into that crouch. Your spine is staying long. Now I'm looking at you. I would like you to keep your cervical spine in line with the rest of your body. So that means when you're back in this crouch position, you're looking right in between your thumbs, right? Long neck. And then you're making an equilateral triangle with your vision, right? So always kind of where you're going. Same thing with the deadlift. This is what your spine should look like on that up and down of the deadlift. Am I right? Yes, I am. That was good. I'm glad we're all in agreement. And then come back to the crouch, bring your knees down, and come into all fours. You can widen your knees for this one. It does not have to be directly underneath your hips, because this will give you a little bit more room to rotate. So now your hands are underneath. We're going to start with the right arm reaching up towards the sky. Spiral your chest open. Try and keep your hips square, and with your knees wider, it's a lot easier to keep your hips square, so that way we're going through the rotation of the, what do you call this? Of the thoracic spine. And then I want you to reach through as much as you can. And you'll feel the opposite shoulder stretch, right? Alternative, you can bring your hand down to your head and feel that stretch through here. Not by really turning, but you're bringing your elbow to your opposite arm. You can come down and really reach through. You can keep your opposite arm straight or bent if you have a little bit more range to turn and twist. Last one on this side. Maybe you'll feel some like cracks in the spine, and then we're gonna switch sides. So now your left arm spirals up, and again, did you see how my hip just popped up, right? Because this is my tighter side, my scoliosis. I'm left side dominant, so rotating away from your dominant side is always easier. And then spiraling open. And ideally, if you were like so perfectly balanced, your shoulders would stack when you opened, with one arm in that like kind of airplane wing and coming down. And last time on this side. And bring your hands down, tuck your toes underneath you. Come back into this nice little Malasana squat just for a second. So stay on tucked toes. Knees can be together or apart now. And I want you to push through and then come up to stand before you drop your heels down. That is your post-run mobility. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. I know I did. I feel fantastic now. And that is that. Okay, guys, I will see y'all soon on the flip side. Enjoy your weekend.